Life-changing announcement. On Tuesday, the 4th of June at 3 p.m. Central, which is 9 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Canada, 10 p.m. Germany, and goodness gracious, 6 a.m. Sydney, I'm going live for my birthday. Don't be a muppet, be there. I'll post a reminder 24 hours in advance. Great, bye. Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today we are reviewing a older video that I made not so long ago that had to do with 10 things that are sort of modern, usually the way we imagine them, but in reality the Romans had. Now, on that video there is one point specifically where I talked about something that I thought was really interesting, and in fact it's number one on that list, and someone made an article to debunk me. Now, I have nothing against that. In fact, I encourage it if it's done in a civil manner, and this person was very civil and was very nice, which is why I'm featuring him here. If he was just calling me names, I would have ignored him completely, but he seems to be someone who likes the channel and just doesn't think that what I'm spreading on that video is true history, and in fact he thinks that the information I'm spreading is misinforming people and kind of spreading a myth. I accept that, but of course I kind of wanted to have a look at it, because if what I'm saying is indeed wrong, then I do want to correct it, and sometimes I've cut off snippets of videos of mine when the information presented was proven to me as being incorrect. So if I say something wrong and you notice it, I'll remove it. But in this case, the situation could be a little deeper than you might think. Let's go. So this is found on Tasters of History. Hey there, editing Metatron here. Hello, I'm a linguist. I speak so many languages. I've been speaking English for like 30 years. I still can't get it. It's tastes, Metatron. Tastes. 你好，我不是中国人，但是我会讲一些普通话。こんにちは、日本語ができますけれども、毎日勉強しなければならないんだよ。Bonjour, bien sûr, je parle français. Enfin, peut-être que nous sortirons dimanche. Tastes. And the title is Dispelling Some Myths Roman Knew About Bacteria. Let's click it. This was posted on February 18th, 2024. Let's see if there is the name of the person who wrote this. I don't see it. So, this is about my video called 10 Modern Things the Romans Had. 10 Modern Things the Romans Had is a YouTube video created and hosted by Raffaello Urbani, who is otherwise known as Metatron. I appreciate that you didn't misspell my first name, because people always forget either one F or one L, or they just forget both. So yeah, his channel is well worth watching if, like me, you're interested in such things as languages, video games, history, historic arms and armor, and medieval history. Maybe not the video games, but being Italian, Metatron has a special interest in the ancient Romans. I'm not sure the video games part here. I don't know what you mean, but whatever. Which is one of the reasons I subscribe to the channel. Well, thank you very much for subscribing, first of all, and thank you very much for the constructive criticism. I very much appreciate. Let's keep reading. In this particular video, it was stated at the 15:45 minutes point that the Romans knew about bacteria. What? How could they? As evidence, Metatron quotes Marcus Terentius Varro's book on farming. Yeah, it's on agriculture, but sure. Okay, so I'd say before we continue reading his counter-argument, I think we should rewatch that little snippet, the little part from my original video for context. Let's go. I'm gonna Metatron watching the Metatron. And 15:45. I left best for last, so first of all, thank you for reaching this part of the video, and I didn't remember I was just casually wearing a bronze helmet, but hey, that was the time that I had just received my frog mouth. You can see it on the side, and I'm wearing the bronze helmet, and I like what I like. So shut up. Putting up with me, but be ready to have your mind blown, because this is gonna be like... The Romans knew about bacteria. We usually learn in school that it was in the 19th century when researchers saw microorganisms under microscopes, and that's true. And also that the idea of bacteria goes back to the 17th century. But if you've ever read the De Re Rustica, written by Marcus Terentius Varro, your opinion might change. He writes, "Precautions must also be taken in the neighbourhood of swamps, both for the reasons given, and because there are bred certain minute creatures which cannot be seen by the eyes, which float in the air and enter the body through the mouth and nose, and there cause serious diseases." Yeah, it's still very impressive. Like, however you want to look at this, one thing I'd like to underline, I still have to keep reading what he reads, but this is a real passage. Okay, so if whatever you want to say, like you want to say, no, I don't believe that this is true, that he actually meant bacteria, that's okay. But one thing that is important to underline when it comes to this response to my original video, the passage exists. So this is exactly what he says. And today we're going to look at it. I'll provide the passage in Latin so that you also have the ability to not have to to rely entirely on the translation, but let me say that the translation is indeed accurate. And the word that we see here for minute creatures, I'll focus on it a little bit on Latin, it's the word animalia. We'll discuss that as well a bit more in details. But let's finish up and see what I said about it, and then we'll see what he reads, and I'll continue from there. How did Varro know? At the end of the day, he did say that the creatures were not visible. Perhaps that might remain a mystery. At least for now. Right, so I didn't really go deeply into it, I just sort of left it out there, gave the passage, and left it for speculation. So, as of now, I mean, it's not like I'm stating that the ancient Romans had technology to be able to see microorganisms, or that we have to reinvent the 17th century and then lately the 18th century and 19th century discoveries. That's not what I'm saying, but let's see exactly where he found a bone to pick. So yes, he puts the same passage here, we already read it, let's see what he says. But how could Varro be aware of microorganisms invisible to the human eye? I also asked that question. Most probably his knowledge stems from observing that some people became sick when near the swamps where clearly detectable foul-smelling air would have been breathed in. Yes, so the air part is one possibility. I don't know if that's what you're going for, but yeah, there are some even incorrect thoughts and associations with smell and diseases and how to prevent diseases, for example, in the medieval period during the Black Plague. So it's possible that's where you're going, but I don't think it's just a matter of the smell. Again, if you read the passage in context, one of the things that Varro was saying, he was talking about homesteading. So if you're going to build a home, do not build it near the swamps. And I agree with you that it's probably a matter of observation. I just don't think that you're giving enough credit to how much a person can understand from observation of specific symptoms alone. But let's keep reading. I don't want to get ahead of myself. If enough people are observed to get ill, then Varro's deduction makes sense. Yet the reference to what has been translated as minute creatures does not necessarily mean the Romans knew about bacteria. It may be just Varro's simple analogy to explain the connection to general readership. I'm not sure the point you're making. The quoted extract does not explicitly talk of bad air, but an inferred connection to malaria is equally clear. The disease, now known to be mosquito-borne, once was thought to be caused by foul air in marshy district. Yeah, I thought you were going to bring this one up. Yet once again, this appears not to be a term used by the Romans to describe swamp-related illnesses. Yeah, I don't think that it has to do necessarily with the bad air, or at least it might be one of the indicators that Varro was considering. But as I say, I think much more of an indicator is if a lot of people are trying to settle around the swamps, or if people traverse the swamps and systematically these people are getting sick. I think it makes sense that he starts to think, hey, there is something in connection with this. And the fact that he does mention, because however you want to look at this, you can think this is conspiracy level, but as much as you want to look at this as, yeah, but there is no way that he knew that there were invisible creatures, that's what he says. He literally says invisible creatures. So I'm not trying to say that he found a way to see the creatures, but I'm saying that through his logic and reason, he figured something out that happened to be then confirmed by science. This is all I'm saying. But let's see. So then he explains about where the word malaria comes from. Of course, being Italian, I know that already because, yeah, it's an Italian word. Of note, the accepted history of bacteriology began in Torti's lifetime. In 1676, the Dutch, yet as I did say on the video, 17th century, in 1676, the Dutch microscopists Antoine van, however you pronounce that, is credited with being the first person to observe bacteria by using a single-lens microscope of his own design. His observations were published in a series of letters to the Royal Society in London. The important point is that the microscopic nature of bacteria required, unsurprisingly, the invention of the microscope before they could be discovered. No, before they could be proven. This is a major point. I think it's almost over. Keep that thought in mind because I'll expand on it. The microscope, suffice to say, is not something the Romans ever did for us. Okay, yes. So, as a critique, I don't think that is 100% fair, in the sense that I still don't think I said anything wrong, and I will show you that I'm not the only one. This is not a matter of, well, a YouTuber is saying something silly. There is, in fact, a quite important association in Edinburgh that makes the exact same connection as I make, and I will, of course, show it to you in a second. But before doing that, I'd like to point out, we agree, the Romans didn't have a freaking microscope. I never said they did. I only said that by reading these passages, it's quite evident that Varro reasoned his way into real science, even without the technology needed to prove his point. So, did everyone who read the book on agriculture believe him? Some people did. Maybe some people thought, yeah, whatever, yeah, microscopic creatures, yeah, sure, Varro, great. But he was right. So this is what's impressive about this, and this is why I presented it as #1 fact into my top 10 that day, is because however you want to put it, he does say invisible creatures, and they are so small that they enter your nose and mouth, and that's exactly where they enter the body when it comes to these sort of diseases. And that is impressive that he figured that one out without the technology. That is some intuition right there. And I do think that you are, again, no hate towards you, but I do think you are not only underestimating how much reason and logic with people that are highly educated and highly intelligent can compensate for the lack of technology. Did he figure out that invisible creatures that cause diseases and enter your body that lived near swarms existed? I strongly believe so. And simply, he didn't have the tech to prove it. But the idea of looking at symptoms and understanding what's behind those symptoms is absolutely plausible. Now, as you know, I mentioned the Latin. So this is the text, original text in Latin, and you'll notice that the word that is usually translated as invisible creature is correct. Invisible is indeed invisible. That's what that word means. And also the Latin word animalia, which is a plural of the word animal. And this word is a neutral noun third declension word, and it has multiple meanings in the sense that it's polysemic and it depends from context. Now, of course, as you can tell if you speak English or any Romance language, it's very close to the word animal, and that is one of the meanings, but it also contains the meaning of living thing, offspring, creature, beast, brute, and insect. Now, so the fact that translators are using the word creature to me is fine, because there is no other indicator in here that he meant a specific type of creature. But creature is indeed one of the possible choices, and I think it's a coherent translation in this specific context. So let's talk about the official stance of the Royal College of Physicians of Edinburgh, who appear to agree with me. And for those who don't know, the Royal College of Physicians of Edinburgh, as we take from Wikipedia, is a medical royal college in Scotland, and is one of the 3 organizations that sets the specialty training standards for physicians in the United Kingdom. So this is not a small, insignificant, little, no, this is a very important, professional, nationwide academic body that exists and has been operating since 1681. And what they say is very interesting. Let's read it. In their publication, which is still, I'll leave a link in the description below, The History of Germ Theory in the College Collections, they read: Marcus Terentius Varro. The idea that certain diseases were caused by minute living creatures invisible to the human eye goes back more than 2,000 years. Note how they are choosing living creatures, which is absolutely a possible translation of the word animalia that I just showed you a second ago. That is also demonstrating that they know the Latin. The Roman scholar Marcus Varro was director of the Imperial Library at Rome and the author of the above work on agriculture. Varro warned against locating homesteads in the proximity of swamps because there are bred certain minute creatures which cannot be seen by the eye, which float in the air and enter the body through the mouth and nose, and there cause serious diseases. And then they continue speaking about all of the other people who historically made contributions into the development of modern germ theory and also microscopic discoveries of the small world, if you will. I seriously don't think that my video was therefore spreading any form of misconception, considering the fact that a link between the writings about agriculture of Varro in Imperial Rome all the way up to the discovery of germ theory, that link, that connection, is in fact sustained and supported and pushed by one of the most important academic bodies when it comes to medical training in the United Kingdom. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much. It would be correct to say the Italian word malaria is derived from mala aria, literally meaning bad air, a combination of mala, bad, from Italian malus, plus aria, air. Yeah, I mean in modern Italian now we say cattivo more than mala. Mala is kind of slang, but whatever. Rather, malaria was probably first used by Italian physician Francisco Torti. By 1866, however, the word was being applied to the disease itself, superseding the earlier term malaria fever. And there is a picture of Francesco Torti. I did think it was Francesco rather than Francisco, to be honest. At the end of the day, yeah, the Romans didn't have the same computers that we have when it comes to like calculating extremely complicated mathematical problems and solving them, but they still managed to build incredible machines. And if you go into like the medieval period, I mean, an engineer who had to write down and calculate everything to create an effective trebuchet. Do we want to talk about that? Simply because they didn't have a computer, it doesn't mean that they couldn't use their own reason, logic, and understanding of the natural world to come to extremely complicated things that now we can more easily achieve. So, in this case, I don't think I need to cut anything off. I've done it before, as I said, but in this case, I appreciate, of course, your rebuttal, but I don't think that I wasn't spreading any form of misconception. But thank you very much, of course, for writing your article, and anyone who wants to go and check it out, you can. I'll leave a link to the article I'm responding to in the link in the description. And as always, if you find anything that you disagree with, feel free to let me know, and I'll be more than happy to review it, both with my team and on my own, depending on what it is. And then if I find that I said something wrong, I'll remove it or I'll readdress it. But if I think it's right, I'll stand up for it. And in this case, I think I can stand and defend my positions. Thank you very much for watching, noble ones, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.